I was lying in a hospital bed, recovering from surgery, when I discovered that my boyfriend of 4 years had registered for wedding gifts. Not with me, with another woman. I had just given him one of my kidneys, literally cut open my body and gave him an organ, and he was planning to marry someone else. I didn't know it yet, but that moment would be the moment everything changed. That moment would be the moment I realized I didn't know the man I loved. That moment would be the beginning of a journey that would teach me the most painful lessons about sacrifice, betrayal, and the kind of strength we find when we have no other choice. My name is Michelle Vasquez. I'm 32 years old. I'm going to tell you the story of how I lost a kidney, how I lost the man I loved, and how I found myself. If you're watching this on Tin Tea Tales, please like and subscribe right now. This story will break your heart. This story will make you question everything you know about love and sacrifice, and you won't want to miss a single moment of it. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. I want to know that my pain, my sacrifice, my betrayal, I want to know that it means something to someone. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how this all started. I met Marcus Whitmore on a Tuesday evening at a wine bar in downtown Portland. I wasn't even supposed to be there that night. My friend Rachel had invited me to come out for happy hour, and I almost didn't go. I was tired from a long week of work as a surgical nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center. But Rachel persisted, and I finally agreed. When I walked into that wine bar, I saw him sitting at the counter. Marcus Whitmore was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. He had rich brown skin, dark intelligent eyes, close-cropped hair, and an effortless confidence that seemed to draw everyone toward him. And he was looking directly at me. "That guy is staring at you," Rachel whispered, grabbing my arm. Before I could respond, Marcus walked over to our table. "Hi," he said, looking directly at me. "I'm Marcus. I saw you come in, and I couldn't leave without trying to talk to you." I felt my cheeks flush. Rachel was grinning like a maniac. "I'm Michelle," I managed to say, "and this is my friend Rachel." We talked for hours that night. Marcus was charming and intelligent. He told me about his consulting career, his travels, his ambitions. I told him about my work in surgery, about the satisfaction of helping patients, about the emotional toll of seeing people at their most vulnerable. "That's incredible," Marcus said, and he sounded like he meant it. "You literally help save lives. That's one of the most important jobs in the world." I felt myself falling for him right there, not just because he was handsome, but because he listened. He asked questions. He seemed genuinely interested in my life. Over the next few months, we fell into a relationship. Marcus was generous with his time and his affection. He took me to beautiful restaurants. He cooked for me at his luxury apartment. He told me he loved me after 6 months of dating. "You matter to me," he said one evening. "I can tell that you're going to be important to me." I believed him completely. A year into our relationship, Marcus asked me to move in with him. I said yes and gave up my apartment. We made plans for the future. We talked about marriage. We talked about having children. We had this beautiful future mapped out in our minds. And then everything changed. About 18 months into our relationship, Marcus mentioned that he'd been feeling tired lately. He said he thought he should get a physical. I encouraged him to do it. Getting regular checkups is important. When he came home from that doctor's appointment, he looked serious. "We need to talk," he said. My stomach dropped. Those 5 words never lead anywhere good. "The doctor ran some blood work," Marcus said, sitting down next to me on the couch. "I have kidney disease. Stage 4 chronic kidney disease. My kidneys are only functioning at about 15 to 20%. I stared at him. "I work in a hospital. I understand medical conditions. I understand that stage 4 chronic kidney disease is serious." "Marcus," I said carefully, "that's serious. That means your kidneys are failing." "What did the doctor say?" "He said I need to see a nephrologist," Marcus said. "He said I might need dialysis eventually. He said I might need a kidney transplant." I pulled him into my arms. He was trembling. "It's going to be okay," I said. "We're going to get through this. I promise." Over the next few weeks, Marcus went through a series of tests. He saw a nephrologist named Dr. Patricia Morrison who confirmed the diagnosis. His kidney function was deteriorating, and eventually, he would need either dialysis or a transplant. After his diagnosis, Marcus fell into a depression. He stopped going out with friends. He stopped cooking. He would come home and sit on the couch staring at the wall. I tried to be supportive, learning everything I could about kidney disease. About 3 months after his diagnosis, I had a thought I couldn't shake. I could donate one of my kidneys to him. I had 2 kidneys. I only needed one. Marcus needed a kidney to survive. That evening, I brought it up to him. "I've been thinking," I said. "What if I donated one of my kidneys to you?" Marcus looked shocked. "Absolutely not," he said. "No way. I'm not going to let you do that." "Why not?" I asked. "I have 2 kidneys. You need one. I could help you. I could save your life." "Michelle," Marcus said, taking my hands, "I appreciate what you're offering, but I can't ask you to risk your health for me." "You're not asking," I said. "I'm offering," but Marcus kept refusing. I brought it up multiple times over the next few months, and each time he said no, but I could see the appeal in his eyes. I could see that part of him desperately wanted me to do it. Finally, after 2 months of persistent requests, Marcus came to me. "I've been thinking about what you said," he told me, "about donating your kidney. I've been researching it. I think I want you to do it. If you're serious, if you're willing." I said yes immediately. "Of course I'm willing," I said. "I love you. I want to help you." Marcus pulled me close and held me, and he cried. He cried like someone whose prayers had just been answered. Once Marcus and I decided to move forward with the kidney donation, there was extensive medical and legal process to go through. The first step was for me to be evaluated as a potential kidney donor. I had comprehensive testing at the hospital, blood work, CT scans to map out my kidneys, urinalysis, an EKG to ensure my heart was healthy. All of these tests came back normal. I was a perfect candidate for kidney donation. Then I met with Dr. Patricia Morrison, the nephrologist who was overseeing Marcus's care. "Michelle," she said after we'd done initial pleasantries, "I want to start by saying that what you're doing is extraordinary. Kidney donation is a generous and noble thing, but I want to make sure you understand what you're committing to." "I understand," I said. "Do you?" Dr. Morrison asked. She leaned back in her chair and looked at me carefully. "Let me tell you what kidney donation means. You're going to have surgery. You're going to be under general anesthesia. You're going to have an incision in your abdomen. And we're going to remove one of your kidneys. That incision is going to hurt for weeks. Your recovery is going to take months. You're going to be at increased risk for complications, infection, bleeding, blood clots." "I know," I said. "After you donate a kidney, your remaining kidney has to work harder," Dr. Morrison continued. "Your kidney function will decrease permanently. You'll go from 100% to approximately 90% kidney function, depending on your remaining kidney. That decrease is permanent. For the rest of your life, you'll have slightly reduced kidney function." "Yes," I said. "I understand that." "And you'll have to be monitored for the rest of your life," Dr. Morrison said. "You'll need regular kidney function tests. You'll need to maintain a healthy blood pressure. If you develop high blood pressure or diabetes, your remaining kidney will be at risk. You'll need to avoid NSAIDs, which can damage your remaining kidney. You'll need to maintain a healthy weight." "I understand," I said. Dr. Morrison then asked, "Michelle, why are you doing this? What's your motivation for donating your kidney to Marcus?" I thought about that question carefully. "I love him," I said finally. "He's dying without a kidney transplant. I can save his life. How could I not do that?" "Love is a wonderful reason," Dr. Morrison said. "But I want to make sure you're not doing this out of obligation or guilt, or a sense that you need to save him. Sometimes people donate organs to people they love because they feel obligated. That's not always a healthy dynamic." I felt my stomach tighten. I hadn't considered that possibility. "I'm not doing it out of obligation," I said. "I'm doing it because I want to." "I want you to know that some donors, after they donate, have regrets," Dr. Morrison said. They regret the donation, and especially if their relationship doesn't work out, they can have significant emotional trauma around the donation. My stomach tightened further. What if Marcus and I broke up after I donated my kidney? What if I gave him this gift and then we didn't work out? "We're not going to break up," I said, but I wasn't entirely sure. After my meeting with Dr. Morrison, I had to meet with a psychologist who specialized in organ donation. Her name was Dr. Susan Chen. "Tell me about your relationship with Marcus," she said. "We've been together for about 4 years," I said. "He's the love of my life. I want to marry him. I want to have a family with him." "Has he talked about marriage specifically?" Dr. Chen asked. "Like, has he mentioned proposing?" I hesitated. The truth was, Marcus hadn't specifically talked about proposing. "Not specifically," I admitted. "But I know he wants to marry me. I know he loves me." Dr. Chen wrote something in her notes. "Michelle," she said, "I want to ask you something important. If you donate your kidney to Marcus, and then your relationship doesn't work out, if you break up, or if he cheats, or if he leaves you, would you regret the donation?" That question hit me hard. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I hope I wouldn't. I hope that I would still feel like it was the right decision, even if our relationship didn't work out." "That's a fair answer," Dr. Chen said. "The reality is that sometimes relationships don't work out, and if you donate to this person, you're going to have a connection to them for the rest of your life." I left that appointment feeling unsettled, but I pushed those doubts down. I told myself that Marcus and I would be together. I told myself that this kidney donation would be the foundation of our future. The surgery was scheduled for a Friday in March. It was going to be in about 2 months. During those 2 months, I prepared myself mentally and emotionally for the surgery. I told my family about my plan to donate a kidney to Marcus. My parents were supportive but worried. "You're really going to do this?" my mother asked. We were sitting in her kitchen drinking coffee. "Yes," I said. "Mom, I love him, and he needs this. I can help him." My mother looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. There was sadness in it, and worry. But also something else. Maybe resignation. Maybe fear. "I hope he knows how lucky he is to have you," my mother said finally. "He does," I said. "He tells me all the time." But even as I said it, I realized it wasn't entirely true. Marcus appreciated what I was doing, but there was something distant about him since his diagnosis. At work, I told my colleagues about the upcoming surgery. They were supportive but worried. "You're sure about this?" my friend and colleague Tanya asked. "I'm sure," I said. "It's the right thing to do." "It's a big sacrifice," Tanya said. "For a man. He's not just a man," I said. "He's the love of my life." The week before the surgery, I had my final preoperative appointment. The surgical team went over everything with me. They explained the risks: bleeding, infection, blood clots, anesthesia complications, persistent pain, and the rare but possible chance of kidney failure in my remaining kidney. They also had me sign a lot of paperwork. Legal documents that confirmed I understood the risks and was choosing to donate anyway. On the night before the surgery, Marcus held me. We were lying in bed in the darkness. "What if something goes wrong?" I asked him. "What if I die during surgery?" "You're not going to die," Marcus said. "You're young and healthy. You're going to be fine. But what if I'm not?" I pressed. "Then you'll wake up and I'll be there with you," Marcus said. "We're partners. We're in this together." I held on to those words that night. I held on to the idea that we were partners, that we were building a future together. I didn't know yet that those words were a lie. The morning of the surgery, I woke up at 5 a.m. I couldn't eat or drink anything after midnight, so I was thirsty and hungry and anxious. Marcus drove me to the hospital. We didn't talk much on the drive. When we arrived, I checked in at the surgery center. They gave me a hospital gown. They started an IV. A nurse reviewed my paperwork and confirmed my identity in the procedure. "Patient confirms, left laparoscopic nephrectomy for organ donation," the nurse said. "Is that correct?" "Yes," I said. The anesthesiologist, Dr. James Mitchell, came in to talk to me. He had a calm, reassuring manner. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Terrified," I said. "That's normal," he said. "I've done this procedure hundreds of times. You're going to be fine." My surgical team came in next. Dr. Patricia Winters, the surgeon who would be performing my nephrectomy, came to talk to me. "Michelle," she said, "I want you to know that I'm going to take excellent care of you. I do this procedure regularly. Your kidney is healthy and normal, which makes this straightforward. You're going to do great. Then it was time. Marcus was allowed to come back and say goodbye before they took me to the operating room. "I love you," he said, holding my hand. "I love you too," I said. "I'm doing this because I love you, because I want you to be healthy, because I want to spend my life with you." "I love you so much," Marcus said. "Thank you for saving my life." Then a nurse said it was time. They wheeled me down to the operating room. The operating room was cold and bright. There were people everywhere, nurses, technicians, the surgical team. They transferred me from my bed to the operating table. They arranged my arms and started putting monitors on me. Dr. Mitchell came over with a syringe. "This is going to relax you," he said, injecting something into my IV. I felt warm and fuzzy. The world started to get soft around the edges. "I'm going to start counting," Dr. Mitchell said. 10, 9, 8. And then there was nothing. There was darkness and silence, and the complete absence of consciousness. When I woke up, I was in the recovery room, and I was in excruciating pain. "You're okay," a nurse said. "You're in recovery. The surgery went very well. You're going to be okay." I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry. My throat felt raw from the breathing tube. Over the next few hours, I became more alert. I was moved to a regular hospital room. Marcus's parents came to visit me. "Thank you," Gloria said, taking my hand. "Thank you for saving our son's life." By evening, Marcus was out of surgery. The transplant team said the new kidney was already working. It was already producing urine. It was already functioning. Marcus called me from his recovery room. "Michelle," he said, "you did it. You saved my life. I can feel your kidney working inside me." I felt tears streaming down my face. My kidney was working in him. My sacrifice had been successful. That night, I felt a sense of profound peace. I had done it. I had sacrificed part of my body for the man I loved. My recovery from kidney surgery was not easy. The pain was worse than I had anticipated. Even with pain medication, I was in significant discomfort for weeks. I spent a week in the hospital. Marcus spent 5 days. We were released within days of each other. Marcus went back to work after 2 weeks. By the 3rd week, I was walking without too much difficulty. Though I was still sore, it was during the 3rd week that I found the wedding registry. I was using Marcus's laptop to check my work email, and I saw a browser tab open to the Knot, a wedding registry website. My curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on the tab. There was a wedding registry for Marcus Whitmore and someone named Gabrielle Sanchez. The wedding date was June 15th. That was less than 3 months away. I couldn't process what I was seeing. This didn't make sense. I opened Marcus's email. I searched for emails from Gabrielle Sanchez, and I found hundreds of them going back months. One email said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. I'm going to miss you while you're dealing with your surgery, but I know you'll get through it. And when you do, we can finally make plans. I love you so much. I love our future together." I read that email over and over. Marcus had been engaged to someone else. The entire time I was recovering from surgery, the entire time I was in pain, the entire time I was thinking about our future together, he was engaged to someone else. I heard the front door open. "Michelle?" Marcus called. "I'm home." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just sat there at his desk, staring at the computer screen. Marcus came into his office. He saw me at his desk. He saw the computer. He saw the expression on my face. He went absolutely pale. "Michelle," he said, "I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked. My voice was very quiet. "Explain the wedding registry. Explain Gabrielle Sanchez. Explain the fact that you're engaged to another woman." "It's not what you think," Marcus said. "Don't," I said. "Don't you dare tell me it's not what I think. I can read. I can see the wedding registry. I can see the emails. I can see that you're engaged." "It's complicated," Marcus said. "Complicated?" I laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. The only thing that's complicated here is that you're a lying, cheating son of a bitch. I gave you my kidney, and you're engaged to someone else. How long? I asked. How long have you been with her? We met 2 years ago, Marcus said quietly. 2 years. We had been together for 4 years. He had been with someone else for 2 of those years. And when were you planning to tell me? I asked. After the wedding? After you'd already married her and come home to me? I was going to tell you, Marcus said. I was just waiting for the right time. There is no right time, I said. I was starting to cry. There's no right time to tell someone you've been cheating on them while they're recovering from surgery. I went to the bedroom and started packing my things. Every movement hurt. My surgical incisions were still tender. But I was too angry, too betrayed, too hurt to care. Michelle, wait, Marcus said. Please let me explain. There's nothing to explain, I said. I understand perfectly. You were with her the whole time. You were planning to marry her the whole time. And you let me donate my kidney to you. I packed a bag with essentials and called my brother Daniel. Can I stay with you? I asked. I need to leave Marcus's apartment. Of course, Daniel said. I'm coming to get you right now. As I waited for Daniel, Marcus tried one more time. Please don't leave, he said. I'll break things off with Gabrielle. I'll call off the wedding. We can work this out. I looked at him. I looked at this man, who I had loved so completely that I had cut open my body and given him an organ. Why should I believe you? I asked. You've been lying to me for 2 years. I left his apartment. I left my relationship. I left the life I thought I was building. And I began a journey that would change everything. By the first Monday after I left Marcus, I was ready to talk to a lawyer. I called a local family law firm called Patterson and Associates. I explained my situation to the receptionist, and she connected me with an attorney named Richard Patterson. Richard Patterson was a man in his early 60s with silver hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. He listened to my story without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Michelle, he said finally, I'm very sorry for what you've experienced. This is a heartbreaking situation, but I have to be honest with you. I'm not sure there's much legal recourse available to you. Why not? I asked. I donated my kidney to him under false pretenses. He lied to me about his relationship status. He made me believe we were going to have a future together. Doesn't that matter legally? In theory, yes, it should matter, Richard said. But in practice, organ donation is treated differently by the law than other gifts. Once you donate an organ, legally it's a gift. It's not a loan. It's not a contract where you can demand compensation if circumstances change. Organ donation law is very specific. Once the donation is made, it's irreversible, and legally, you have no further claim to the organ or to compensation. So there's nothing I can do? I asked, my voice breaking. I didn't say that, Richard said carefully. There might be other avenues. Depending on what happened before the donation, there might be grounds for fraud or misrepresentation. If he actively lied to you, if he told you he wasn't in a relationship with anyone else, or if he told you he was planning to marry you, then there might be a case for fraudulent inducement. But you would have to prove that he made specific false statements and that you relied on those false statements in deciding to donate your kidney. He did tell me we would have a future together, I said. He told me he loved me. He told me I was going to be important to him. He told me we were partners. Those are more general statements of affection and commitment, Richard said. A lawyer for Marcus would argue that those are statements of intention, not specific facts. And they might argue that your kidney donation was a gift freely given, regardless of what he said. I felt my heart sink. I had come to this lawyer hoping he would tell me there was a clear legal path forward. Instead, he was telling me that the law didn't really care about what I'd done or why I'd done it. What about fraud in the inducement? I asked, if I can prove that he actively lied to me. That's possible, Richard said. But here's the problem. You're not going to be able to get your kidney back. The law doesn't allow you to force someone to give back a donated organ. even if it was obtained fraudulently. The best you could hope for in a fraud case would be monetary damages. Monetary damages? I said. How much are we talking about? That depends on a lot of factors, Richard said. The cost of the surgery, your lost wages during recovery, any additional medical costs related to the donation. But honestly, I don't think you'd get a huge amount of money out of this. Maybe enough to cover your direct costs, maybe enough for some pain and suffering damages, but not a life-changing amount. I don't want money, I said. I want justice. I want him to be held accountable for what he did to me. I understand, Richard said, but the legal system doesn't always deliver justice in the way we want it to. The legal system is designed to compensate people for concrete harms, and while what happened to you is absolutely wrong and deeply unfair, the legal system might not see it as a prosecutable harm. I left Richard Patterson's office feeling devastated. I had been hoping the legal system would provide me with some avenue to fight back, but instead, I was being told that what Marcus had done to me might not be illegal, but I wasn't ready to give up. I made appointments with 3 other lawyers. I wanted to get different opinions. The second lawyer, a woman named Susan Yang, told me essentially the same thing that Richard Patterson had told me. The third lawyer, a man named Michael Chen, offered a slightly different perspective. The challenge with organ donation fraud, Michael Chen said, is that there's very little case law on the subject. There are very few legal precedents for what happens when someone donates an organ to someone based on false pretenses. Most cases I've heard about involve family members donating organs and then having a falling out. But those cases don't usually go to court because it's almost impossible to prove fraud when dealing with something as intimate as an organ donation. So I'm just out of luck? I asked. Not necessarily, Michael Chen said. You might have a case for emotional distress. You might have a case for fraudulent inducement, but you would have to be prepared for a long, expensive legal battle with uncertain outcomes. How expensive? I asked. A case like this could cost you $20,000 to $50,000 in legal fees, Michael Chen said, and that's just for the litigation. If it goes to trial, the costs would be significantly higher. I didn't have $20,000 to $50,000. I had a moderate savings account, but that money was supposed to be for my future, a future that didn't include a drawn-out legal battle with my ex-boyfriend. But as I left Michael Chen's office, I realized something. I wasn't fighting this battle just for myself. I was fighting it for every person who had donated an organ to someone they loved and had been betrayed. I was fighting it because it was right. 3 weeks after I left Marcus, I returned to work at Providence Portland Medical Center. My surgical incisions had healed well. I was no longer in significant pain, but I was emotionally fragile, and I was terrified of seeing Marcus, who sometimes consulted at my hospital, or running into people who might know about my situation. My colleague Tanya noticed immediately that something was wrong. "How are you doing?" she asked during a break. I gave her a brief outline of what had happened. I told her about finding the wedding registry, about discovering that Marcus was engaged, about leaving him. Tanya's response was visceral. She swore. She hugged me. She told me that Marcus was a bastard and that I was brave for leaving him. "I feel like an idiot," I said. "I donated my kidney to a man who was planning to marry someone else." "How did I not see that? What's wrong with me?" "Nothing is wrong with you," Tanya said firmly. "You loved him. You trusted him, and he betrayed you. That's not your fault. That's his fault. And if there's any justice in the universe, he's going to get what's coming to him." I appreciated Tanya's support, but I wasn't sure I believed in justice anymore. The lawyers had made it clear that the legal system might not help me, and I didn't have the financial resources to mount an expensive legal battle even if one were possible. So I did what people do when they're devastated. I focused on work. I threw myself into my job. I worked extra shifts. I volunteered for the difficult cases. I volunteered for overtime. I kept myself so busy that I didn't have time to think about Marcus or Gabrielle or the kidney that was apparently functioning perfectly inside his body. But my body was struggling in ways that I hadn't anticipated. About 4 weeks after returning to work, I started feeling fatigued, not the normal end-of-shift tiredness, but a deep, bone-deep exhaustion that didn't go away no matter how much I slept. I also started experiencing leg swelling. My feet and ankles would swell throughout the day, and by the evening I could barely fit into my shoes. I attributed it to being on my feet all day at the hospital, but I was worried. At my 6-week post-operative appointment with Dr. Patricia Winters, I mentioned the fatigue and the swelling. Dr. Winters ordered some blood work and a urinalysis. The results came back, and I could see the concern on her face. "Michelle," she said, "your kidney function has decreased more than I would have expected at this point in your recovery. Your creatinine levels are elevated, and you have protein in your urine. This suggests that your remaining kidney is not functioning optimally." "What does that mean?" I asked, though I already had a sense of what it meant. "It means that your remaining kidney is working harder than expected," Dr. Winters said. "It's possible that your remaining kidney is smaller than we anticipated, or it's possible that it was already compromised before the surgery in a way that our tests didn't detect. It's also possible that you're developing high blood pressure, which can damage your remaining kidney." "What do I do?" I asked. "We need to monitor your blood pressure carefully," Dr. Winters said. "We need to do regular blood work to monitor your kidney function. We need to make sure you're staying hydrated. We need to make sure you're eating a kidney-healthy diet. And you need to avoid NSAIDs and any other medications that could damage your remaining kidney." "Is my kidney function going to get worse?" I asked. "Possibly," Dr. Winters said. "It's too early to tell. But I want you to be aware that you need to be very careful with your health going forward. You need to live like someone with a single kidney, because that's what you are now." I left that appointment feeling frightened. I had donated my kidney expecting to have one healthy kidney remaining. Instead, it seemed that my remaining kidney was also compromised. I started seeing a nephrologist, Dr. Robert Martinez, who specialized in kidney disease. He ran more tests and told me essentially what Dr. Winters had said. My remaining kidney was not functioning optimally, and I needed to be very careful with my health. "You need to monitor your blood pressure," Dr. Martinez said. "You need to follow a kidney-healthy diet. You need to exercise regularly but not excessively. You need to avoid any medications that could damage your kidney. And you need to come in for regular blood work to monitor your kidney function." "Is this permanent?" I asked. "The changes to your kidney function are likely permanent," Dr. Martinez said. "But whether your kidney function gets worse or stays stable depends on how well you manage your health." Sitting in that nephrologist's office, I had a realization. I had given Marcus a kidney, and in doing so, I had potentially sacrificed my own long-term health. I had a compromised kidney now. I was going to have to monitor my health for the rest of my life, and if things got worse, I might end up on dialysis or needing a kidney transplant myself one day. The irony was almost unbearable. 3 months after I left Marcus, I ran into him at the hospital. He was consulting on a case in the ICU, and I happened to be administering anesthesia for a patient in a nearby room. I saw him in the hallway, and before I could think about whether it was a good idea, I walked up to him. "Hello, Marcus," I said. He looked shocked to see me. He tried to smile, but it came across as uncomfortable. "Michelle," he said, "how are you?" "How am I?" I laughed, a bitter laugh. "I'm fantastic, Marcus. I'm doing great. My kidney function is compromised. I'm on medications for high blood pressure that I didn't have before. I'm going to have to monitor my health for the rest of my life. And I'm doing it all because I was stupid enough to donate a kidney to a man who was planning to marry someone else." "Michelle, I'm sorry," Marcus said. "I know I hurt you. I know what I did was wrong, but I still care about you, and I'm grateful for the kidney. My kidney function is excellent. Your kidney is functioning perfectly inside me." "Oh, I'm so glad," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "I'm thrilled that my kidney is working so well. It's a shame that my remaining kidney is failing." "What?" Marcus looked genuinely shocked. "Your remaining kidney is failing?" "It's compromised," I said. "My nephrologist says my kidney function is lower than expected. It's possible I'll need dialysis or a transplant in the future. And I can thank you for that, Marcus. I can thank you for making me donate my kidney while you were engaged to someone else." "Michelle, I didn't know that was going to happen," Marcus said. "I didn't know donating a kidney would damage your other kidney." "It's called being an asshole," I said. "It's called not thinking about anyone except yourself. It's called taking someone's organ without being honest about who you are and what you're doing." "You're right," Marcus said quietly. "You're right about all of that. I'm sorry, but his apology felt empty. I didn't want his apology. I wanted justice. I wanted him to suffer the way I was suffering. I wanted him to understand the magnitude of what he'd done to me. "How's Gabrielle?" I asked. "How's your wedding going?" "When is the big day?" "June 15th, Marcus said quietly. "June 15th, I repeated. 2 months away. And I'm sure you'll have the perfect honeymoon while I'm at home managing my compromised kidney function and wondering if I'm going to spend the rest of my life on dialysis." "Michelle." "Don't," I said. "Don't try to apologize. Don't try to make this right. You can't. You took something from me that I can't get back. You lied to me. You betrayed me. And you did it while I was literally bleeding from surgery. So save your apologies for someone who cares." I walked away from him. I went back to work. And for the first time since I'd discovered his betrayal, I allowed myself to feel pure, unfiltered rage. I didn't mean to find out what I found out about Gabrielle Sanchez. I wasn't looking for it, but when you're angry and you have access to the internet, you sometimes go down rabbit holes that lead to unexpected places. I was at work during my lunch break, sitting alone in the break room, and I decided to look Gabrielle up on social media. She had a Facebook page, an Instagram account, a LinkedIn profile. She seemed like a normal, successful woman. She worked in PR for a major Portland company. She had friends. She went to yoga. She did charitable work. She seemed like a decent person. But then I started digging deeper. I looked at her tagged photos. I looked at where she'd been and when. I started to see a pattern. Gabrielle had been to several events that Marcus had also been to. There were photos of them together at company parties and charity galas. But the dates on those photos were before Marcus had told me he was with me exclusively. Wait. Let me backtrack. Marcus had never explicitly said he was with me exclusively. He'd never asked me to be his girlfriend in a formal way. We had just fallen into a relationship, and I had assumed exclusivity was implied. But what if Marcus didn't think exclusivity was implied? What if Marcus thought he could date me and date Gabrielle at the same time? I dug deeper into Gabrielle's social media. I found photos of her and Marcus together dating back to years ago. Years before I met him. Years before I was dating him. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. There was a photo of Gabrielle and Marcus at what looked like a wedding. The photo was dated 3 years ago. Gabrielle was wearing a white dress that could almost pass for a wedding dress. Marcus was wearing a tuxedo. They were standing in front of a wedding cake together, and they were smiling at the camera. The caption on the photo said, "Our wedding day. Best day of my life. Forever with my love." I stared at that photo for a long time. My hands started to shake. My heart started to pound. Marcus was already married. He was already married when he met me. He was already married when he told me he loved me. He was already married when he asked me to donate my kidney to him. I did some more digging. I found the marriage certificate online. Marcus Whitmore and Gabrielle Sanchez were married 3 years ago. It was a legal marriage. They were still married. And yet when I had met Marcus, he had told me he was single. He had told me he'd never been married. He had told me that we would have a beautiful future together. That beautiful future was going to be with a wife he was still married to. I felt sick. I felt betrayed in a way that was even deeper than I had felt betrayed before. This wasn't just about infidelity. This was about bigamy. This was about Marcus deceiving not just me, but also Gabrielle. This was about Marcus living a double life for years. I called Richard Patterson, the lawyer I had consulted with. "Richard," I said, "I need to meet with you again. I've discovered something new. I didn't mean to find out what I found out about Gabrielle Sanchez. I wasn't looking for it. But when you're angry and you have access to the internet, you sometimes go down rabbit holes that lead to unexpected places." I was at work during my lunch break, sitting alone in the break room, and I decided to look Gabrielle up on social media. She had a Facebook page, an Instagram account, a LinkedIn profile. She seemed like a normal, successful woman. She worked in PR for a major Portland company. She had friends. She went to yoga. She did charitable work. She seemed like a decent person. But then I started digging deeper. I looked at her tagged photos. I looked at where she'd been and when. I started to see a pattern. Gabrielle had been to several events that Marcus had also been to. There were photos of them together at company parties and charity galas. But the dates on those photos were before Marcus had told me he was with me exclusively. Wait. Let me backtrack. Marcus had never explicitly said he was with me exclusively. He'd never asked me to be his girlfriend in a formal way. We had just fallen into a relationship, and I had assumed exclusivity was implied. But what if Marcus didn't think exclusivity was implied? What if Marcus thought he could date me and date Gabrielle at the same time? I dug deeper into Gabrielle's social media. I found photos of her and Marcus together dating back to years ago, years before I met him, years before I was dating him. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. There was a photo of Gabrielle and Marcus at what looked like a wedding. The photo was dated 3 years ago. Gabrielle was wearing a white dress that could almost pass for a wedding dress. Marcus was wearing a tuxedo. They were standing in front of a wedding cake together, and they were smiling at the camera. The caption on the photo said, "Our wedding day. Best day of my life, forever with my love." I stared at that photo for a long time. My hands started to shake. My heart started to pound. Marcus was already married. He was already married when he met me. He was already married when he told me he loved me. He was already married when he asked me to donate my kidney to him. I did some more digging. I found the marriage certificate online. Marcus Whitmore and Gabrielle Sanchez were married 3 years ago. It was a legal marriage. They were still married, and yet, when I had met Marcus, he had told me he was single. He had told me he'd never been married. He had told me that we would have a beautiful future together. That beautiful future was going to be with a wife he was still married to. I felt sick. I felt betrayed in a way that was even deeper than I had felt betrayed before. This wasn't just about infidelity. This was about bigamy. This was about Marcus deceiving not just me, but also Gabrielle. This was about Marcus living a double life for years. I called Richard Patterson, the lawyer I had consulted with. "Richard," I said, "I need to meet with you again. I've discovered something new. I need to pause here for a moment. I'm at a critical point in this story, and I want to address you, the viewer, directly. If you're still watching Tinty Tales, I want to thank you. This story is becoming increasingly darker, increasingly complicated, and I'm grateful that you're here with me, witnessing this journey. If this story is affecting you, if you're feeling connected to what I'm experiencing, please support Tinty Tales right now. Like this video, subscribe to our channel. We tell stories that matter. We tell stories of real people facing impossible circumstances. We tell stories of betrayal, survival, and hope. If you want to directly support us, please send a super thanks. Your financial support helps us continue bringing these stories to life. Your support helps us reach more people who need to hear stories like mine. And please, please tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Tell me what you think about what I've discovered. Tell me if you think Marcus is a bigamist. Tell me what you would do in my situation. Most importantly, if you're in a situation where you've been lied to, where you've been deceived, where you've been taken advantage of, please reach out for help. There are resources available. You are not alone. I'm going to continue this story now, and it gets much more complicated. When I met with Richard Patterson for the second time, I brought him the marriage certificate and all the evidence I'd found about Marcus's marriage to Gabrielle. Richard looked at all of this carefully, and his expression changed from sympathetic to serious. "Michelle," he said slowly, "this is a much bigger situation than we initially thought." "What do you mean?" I asked, though I already knew what he meant. "If Marcus was married to Gabrielle when he was dating you, and if he represented himself to you as single, then he committed fraud," Richard said. "This is not just about organ donation fraud. This is about misrepresentation of his marital status. This could actually be criminal fraud. This could potentially be prosecutable." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means that instead of just a civil suit against Marcus, there might be grounds for a criminal complaint," Richard said. "You could potentially file a police report. The district attorney could potentially bring charges against Marcus for fraud." I felt something shift inside me. Before, I had been told that the legal system couldn't help me. Now, suddenly, there was a possibility that the legal system could actually pursue this. "What do I need to do?" I asked. "First, we need to do more investigation," Richard said. "We need to gather all the evidence, the marriage certificate, the photos, the emails, any text messages or communication where he represented himself as single. We need to build a comprehensive case. Then we can go to the police and file a report. The police will investigate, and if they determine that there's probable cause, they can refer the case to the district attorney. The district attorney will decide whether to press charges. I spent the next 2 weeks gathering evidence. I downloaded every email from Marcus that referenced his relationship status. I took screenshots of every photo on Gabrielle's social media that proved they were in a relationship before I met Marcus. I printed out the marriage certificate. I created a comprehensive timeline of Marcus's statements to me versus what I now knew to be the truth. On a Wednesday afternoon, I walked into the Portland Police Department's downtown precinct and filed a report. I met with a detective named Sarah Morrison. She listened to my story, she looked at my evidence, and she took it seriously. "This is a clear case of fraud," Detective Morrison said. "The defendant presented himself as single to the victim, while he was actively married to another woman. The victim relied on this misrepresentation in making a medical decision, organ donation, that has had permanent consequences for her health." "What happens now?" I asked. "I'm going to investigate further," Detective Morrison said. "I'm going to interview Marcus Whitmore. I'm going to interview Gabrielle Sanchez. I'm going to see if there are other victims. And then I'm going to bring my findings to the district attorney. But I want to be honest with you. I can't promise that charges will be filed. That depends on the DA's office and whether they think there's enough evidence to move forward." I left that police station feeling a sense of cautious hope. Finally, someone was taking this seriously. Finally, someone was going to investigate Marcus's behavior. But I also knew that even if the police investigated, even if the DA brought charges, it still wouldn't give me my kidney back. It still wouldn't fix my compromised kidney function. It still wouldn't give me justice in the way I wanted it. Through the police investigation and the subsequent legal proceedings, I learned things about Marcus that I never would have learned otherwise. Things that painted a picture of a man who was not just a liar and a cheater, but something far more calculated and disturbing. Detective Morrison interviewed Marcus. During that interview, Marcus apparently confessed to everything. He admitted that he was married to Gabrielle. He admitted that he had started a relationship with me while married to Gabrielle. He admitted that he had not told me about his marriage. But when Detective Morrison asked why he had done this, Marcus said something that chilled me to my core. According to the detective's report, Marcus said, "I never asked Michelle to donate her kidney. She offered to do it. I initially refused, but she kept insisting. She wanted to do it. I didn't want to stop her." The detective asked, "Did you tell Michelle that you were married?" According to the report, Marcus said, "No, I didn't think it was relevant. Michelle and I had a relationship, but it wasn't serious to me the way my marriage was serious. I didn't think I needed to tell her." When the detective asked about the wedding registry with Gabrielle's name and the June wedding date, Marcus said, "Gabrielle and I were renewing our vows. I was married to her, but our marriage had gotten stale. We decided to renew our vows as a way to recommit to each other. The wedding registry was for people to give us gifts for the vow renewal ceremony. A vow renewal ceremony, not a wedding. A vow renewal ceremony." According to the detective's investigation, this was technically true. Marcus and Gabrielle had been married for 3 years when I met Marcus. What they were doing in June was supposedly a vow renewal ceremony. But that didn't change the fact that Marcus had lied to me. That didn't change the fact that he had misrepresented his marital status. That didn't change the fact that I had donated my kidney to a married man under false pretenses. Then came a shock that I wasn't prepared for. Through the police investigation, it came to light that Gabrielle didn't know about me. She didn't know that Marcus was cheating on her. She didn't know that Marcus was dating another woman. She didn't know that Marcus had received a kidney donation from his mistress. When the police detective informed her of these facts, apparently Gabrielle was devastated. She filed for divorce from Marcus. She contacted me directly. "Michelle," she said when I called her back, "I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. I didn't know about you. I didn't know any of this was happening. I feel so stupid." "You're not stupid," I said. "You're a victim of Marcus's deception just like I am." "I want to help," Gabrielle said. "I want to do whatever I can to support your case against him. I want him to be held accountable." Gabrielle provided the police with additional evidence. She provided emails and text messages that showed Marcus had been dishonest with her as well. She provided evidence that Marcus had been systematically lying to both of us for years. The picture that emerged was of a man who was a serial deceiver, A man who had built an entire life on lies. A man who had manipulated and betrayed multiple people to get what he wanted, and what he had wanted from me was my kidney. 3 months after I filed my police report, Detective Sarah Morrison called me with an update. The district attorney has decided to press charges, she said. They're charging Marcus with fraud, specifically fraud related to the kidney donation. I felt my heart stop, and then start again, beating faster than before. What does that mean? I asked. It means Marcus is going to be charged with committing fraud against you, Detective Morrison said. The DA believes that by misrepresenting his marital status, by allowing you to believe you were in an exclusive relationship, Marcus induced you to donate your kidney under false pretenses. That's fraud. What are the penalties? I asked. That depends on the outcome of the case, Detective Morrison said. If Marcus is convicted, he could face jail time and fines. But first, we have to prove our case in court. A trial. There was going to be a trial. Marcus was going to have to face a court of law for what he'd done to me. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt exhausted. The trial took place 6 months after I filed my police report. By that time, I had spent so much time dealing with this situation that it felt like my entire life was consumed by it. I thought about Marcus constantly. I thought about the kidney constantly. I thought about the injustice constantly. My lawyer, Richard Patterson, prepared me extensively for testimony. He told me what to expect, how to answer questions, how to maintain my composure when Marcus's defense lawyer tried to trip me up or make me look unreliable. On the day of my testimony, I was terrified. I sat in the witness box, my hand on a Bible, and I swore to tell the truth. And then I told my story. I told the courtroom about meeting Marcus. I told them about our relationship. I told them about his kidney disease diagnosis. I told them about my offer to donate my kidney. I told them about the medical evaluation and the psychologist's warnings about relationship instability. I told them about the surgery and my recovery. I told them about finding the wedding registry 3 weeks after donating my kidney. And I told them about the devastating realization that Marcus had been married the entire time. Marcus's defense attorney, a woman named Catherine Wells, cross-examined me aggressively. Ms. Vasquez, she said, did Mr. Whitmore ever explicitly tell you that he was single? No, I admitted, but he never told me he was married. Did he ever tell you that he wasn't in a relationship with anyone else? Catherine Wells asked. He said he loved me, I said. He said we had a future together. He said we were partners. Those aren't explicit statements of exclusivity, Catherine Wells said. Those are statements of affection. Did he ever explicitly say, I am only with you and no one else? No, I admitted. But that's implied in a relationship, is it? Catherine Wells asked. In today's modern world, where many people have multiple romantic partners, is exclusivity always implied? In my world, yes, I said. When I'm with someone, when I say I love them, I'm not with anyone else. That's what a relationship means to me. That might be what a relationship means to you, Catherine Wells said. But that's not necessarily what it means to Mr. Whitmore. People have different understandings of relationships. People have different values. I felt my anger rising. Different values? Was she seriously arguing that cheating and lying were just a matter of different values? But I kept my composure. I answered her questions, and I testified for 4 hours. Then Marcus's lawyer called Marcus to the stand. Marcus testified that he had never told me I was his only girlfriend. He testified that he felt I should have asked him directly about his relationship status if I was concerned. He testified that he was grateful for the kidney donation and that he had no regrets about it. When Richard Patterson cross-examined Marcus, he asked pointed questions about the email where Gabrielle had written about missing him while he was having his surgery, about the wedding registry, about the vow renewal ceremony planning. Marcus had explanations for all of it. The email, he said, was just Gabrielle being sweet and supportive. The wedding registry, he said, was exactly what he'd told the police. A vow renewal ceremony registry. The vow renewal planning was something he and Gabrielle had been working on together, but his explanations sounded hollow to me. They sounded like a man who had been caught and was desperately trying to explain away his behavior. The trial lasted a week. Witnesses testified, evidence was presented, arguments were made, and then the jury had to deliberate. I waited in the hallway outside the courtroom, feeling sick to my stomach. My family was with me. My brother Daniel, my mother, my father. They sat with me while I waited to hear if Marcus would be convicted or acquitted. The jury deliberated for 2 days. 2 long, agonizing days where I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on anything except the possibility that Marcus might be found not guilty. That Marcus might walk free from this courtroom without facing any consequences for what he'd done to me. On the afternoon of the second day, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty. Marcus Whitmore was found guilty of fraud. The jury agreed with the prosecution that Marcus had misrepresented his relationship status to induce me to donate my kidney. When the verdict was read, I felt relief wash over me. Not joy, not quite, but relief. He had been convicted. He would face consequences. The legal system had, after all, found a way to help me. Marcus was sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to pay me restitution of $100,000 for my medical costs. Lost wages during recovery and pain and suffering, $100,000. It sounds like a lot of money, but it felt like it barely compensated for what I'd lost. I had lost a kidney. I had lost my future of optimal health. I had lost my faith in my ability to judge people's character. I had lost my belief in love. But at least the court had recognized that I had been harmed. At least the court had recognized that Marcus's actions had consequences. Richard Patterson told me that the sentencing and the restitution order were victories. Most cases like this don't even make it to prosecution, he told me. Most cases like this don't result in convictions. You got justice in the legal sense, Michelle. It's not perfect justice, but it's real justice. I appreciated his perspective, but I still didn't feel victorious. I still felt violated and betrayed and damaged. I was at work when Dr. Chen called. I almost didn't answer. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me pick up. Michelle Vasquez? The woman on the phone asked. Yes, I said. Who is this? My name is Dr. Elizabeth Chen, the woman said. I'm a nephrologist at Oregon Health Sciences University. I'm calling because I need to talk to you about something related to your kidney donation case. My stomach immediately tensed. What did a nephrologist I'd never met want to talk to me about regarding the kidney donation? Okay, I said cautiously. What is it? I'm calling because I've been reviewing Marcus Whitmore's medical records, Dr. Chen said. Marcus is a patient of mine now because he's incarcerated, and I provide medical care for inmates. And I've discovered something that I think you need to know about. What? I asked. The kidney that Marcus received from you has failed, Dr. Chen said. I felt the room spin. The kidney had failed? The kidney I'd donated to him had failed? What do you mean it failed? I asked, my voice very quiet. I mean that the kidney is no longer functioning, Dr. Chen said. It's been rejecting for several months. Marcus's body is rejecting your kidney. The transplant has failed. Marcus is going to need to go back on dialysis. I sat down in the nearest chair. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or devastated. When did this happen? I asked. The rejection started about 6 months ago, Dr. Chen said. Marcus noticed that his urine output was decreasing. His kidney function tests were declining. We ran some tests, and we determined that the kidney was being rejected. We started him on some medications to try to slow the rejection, but the kidney has essentially failed. He's producing almost no urine from your kidney now. Does he know? I asked. Yes, he knows, Dr. Chen said. That's actually why I'm calling you. Marcus asked me to call you. He wants to talk to you. He asked me to tell you that. Well, he asked me to tell you that he's sorry. He asked me to tell you that having his body reject your kidney is his punishment for what he did to you. I didn't know what to say. I had spent so much time angry at Marcus, so much time demanding justice, so much time dealing with the consequences of his betrayal. And now, it seemed like the universe had delivered its own justice. The kidney had failed. The organ he had obtained through fraud was now useless to him. Dr. Chen, I said slowly, why are you calling me? What do you want me to do with this information? I'm calling because Marcus is now in need of a kidney transplant again, Dr. Chen said. He's going to have to go back on the waiting list. He's going to have to find another donor. And he's going to have to live with the knowledge that his own body rejected the kidney that someone he loved sacrificed for him. Are you asking me to donate another kidney? I asked, barely able to say the words. No, Dr. Chen said immediately. Absolutely not. That would be inappropriate. I'm calling to inform you of the medical situation and because Marcus wanted me to reach out to you. I'm calling because I thought you had a right to know. After I hung up with Dr. Chen, I sat in silence for a long time. I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was satisfaction. The kidney had failed, and Marcus was suffering the consequences. But there was also sadness. There was sadness for the fact that my kidney, the kidney I had given in an act of love and sacrifice, was no longer functioning. There was sadness for the fact that even though Marcus had been convicted, even though he was serving time in prison, he was still suffering. And somehow, I didn't feel as good about that as I thought I would. A week after Dr. Chen's phone call, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Marcus. It was mailed from the federal penitentiary where he was serving his sentence. I almost didn't open it. I almost threw it away. But something made me tear it open and read what he had written. Dear Michelle, the letter began. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know you probably hate me. I know I have no right to be reaching out to you. But I need to tell you something, and I'm not sure how else to reach you except through a letter. My body has rejected your kidney. The transplant has failed. After months of declining function, my doctors have determined that your kidney is no longer viable. It's no longer helping me. It's been destroyed by my own immune system. When Dr. Chen first told me about the rejection, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't sad. I felt like the universe was punishing me. I felt like I deserved it. And then I realized something. I realized that in rejecting your kidney, my body was rejecting the only good thing I had done in this entire situation. My body was rejecting an act of genuine sacrifice and genuine love, and there was something profoundly tragic about that. Michelle, I want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for lying to you. I'm sorry for cheating on you. I'm sorry for allowing you to donate your kidney while I was married to someone else. I'm sorry for the damage I've done to your health and your life and your ability to trust people. But more than that, I want you to know that I recognize the magnitude of what you sacrificed. I recognize that you gave me a part of your body. You permanently altered your health to try to save my life. And I threw that sacrifice back in your face by lying to you. When my kidney rejected, I thought about how unfair that was. Not to me, but to you. Because now your sacrifice was literally for nothing. You gave me your kidney, and my body destroyed it. You altered your health for a man who didn't deserve the gift. I've had a lot of time to think in this prison cell. I've had a lot of time to reflect on my choices. And I've come to understand that what I did to you was not just a mistake or a lapse in judgment. What I did to you was evil. I deliberately deceived you about something fundamental. I allowed you to make a life-altering decision based on lies. I took your sacrifice, and I treated it like it was nothing. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't expect you to respond to this letter. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I've done, and I'm sorry. I hope that knowing your kidney rejected gives you some sense of justice. I hope that knowing I'm suffering in here gives you some satisfaction. And I hope that eventually you're able to move forward and find happiness. You deserve happiness, Michelle. You deserve to be with someone who values your sacrifice. You deserve to be with someone who loves you the way you love them. I'm sorry, Marcus. I read that letter 3 times. By the time I finished reading it the 3rd time, I was crying. I had spent so much time angry at Marcus, so much time wanting him to suffer, so much time wanting revenge. And now that he was suffering, now that his kidney had been rejected, and he was going back on dialysis. I felt hollow. The satisfaction I thought I would feel at his suffering didn't materialize. Instead, I felt sad. I felt sad for both of us. I felt sad for the relationship that had started with so much promise and had ended in so much pain and deception. I was at work when Dr. Chen called. I almost didn't answer. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me pick up. "Michelle Vasquez?" the woman on the phone asked. "Yes," I said. "Who is this?" "My name is Dr. Elizabeth Chen," the woman said. "I'm a nephrologist at Oregon Health Sciences University. I'm calling because I need to talk to you about something related to your kidney donation case." My stomach immediately tensed. What did a nephrologist I'd never met want to talk to me about regarding the kidney donation? "Okay," I said cautiously. "What is it?" "I'm calling because I've been reviewing Marcus Whitmore's medical records," Dr. Chen said. "Marcus is a patient of mine now because he's incarcerated, and I provide medical care for inmates. And I've discovered something that I think you need to know about." "What?" I asked. "The kidney that Marcus received from you has failed," Dr. Chen said. I felt the room spin. The kidney had failed? The kidney I'd donated to him had failed? "What do you mean it failed?" I asked, my voice very quiet. "I mean that the kidney is no longer functioning," Dr. Chen said. "It's been rejecting for several months. Marcus's body is rejecting your kidney. The transplant has failed. Marcus is going to need to go back on dialysis." I sat down in the nearest chair. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or devastated. "When did this happen?" I asked. "The rejection started about 6 months ago," Dr. Chen said. "Marcus noticed that his urine output was decreasing. His kidney function tests were declining. We ran some tests, and we determined that the kidney was being rejected. We started him on some medications to try to slow the rejection, but the kidney has essentially failed. He's producing almost no urine from your kidney now." "Does he know?" I asked. "Yes, he knows," Dr. Chen said. "That's actually why I'm calling you. Marcus asked me to call you. He wants to talk to you. He asked me to tell you that. Well, he asked me to tell you that he's sorry. He asked me to tell you that having his body reject your kidney is his punishment for what he did to you." I didn't know what to say. I had spent so much time angry at Marcus, so much time demanding justice, so much time dealing with the consequences of his betrayal. And now, it seemed like the universe had delivered its own justice. The kidney had failed. The organ he had obtained through fraud was now useless to him. "Dr. Chen," I said slowly, "why are you calling me? What do you want me to do with this information?" "I'm calling because Marcus is now in need of a kidney transplant again," Dr. Chen said. "He's going to have to go back on the waiting list. He's going to have to find another donor, and he's going to have to live with the knowledge that his own body rejected the kidney that someone he loved sacrificed for him." "Are you asking me to donate another kidney?" I asked, barely able to say the words. "No," Dr. Chen said immediately. "Absolutely not. That would be inappropriate. I'm calling to inform you of the medical situation and because Marcus wanted me to reach out to you. I'm calling because I thought you had a right to know." After I hung up with Dr. Chen, I sat in silence for a long time. I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was satisfaction. The kidney had failed, and Marcus was suffering the consequences. But there was also sadness. There was sadness for the fact that my kidney, the kidney I had given in an act of love and sacrifice, was no longer functioning. There was sadness for the fact that even though Marcus had been convicted, even though he was serving time in prison, he was still suffering. And somehow, I didn't feel as good about that as I thought I would. A week after Dr. Chen's phone call, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Marcus. It was mailed from the federal penitentiary where he was serving his sentence. I almost didn't open it. I almost threw it away. But something made me tear it open and read what he had written. "Dear Michelle," the letter began, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know you probably hate me. I know I have no right to be reaching out to you. But I need to tell you something, and I'm not sure how else to reach you except through a letter. My body has rejected your kidney. The transplant has failed. After months of declining function, my doctors have determined that your kidney is no longer viable. It's no longer helping me. It's been destroyed by my own immune system. When Dr. Chen first told me about the rejection, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't sad. I felt like the universe was punishing me. I felt like I deserved it. And then I realized something. I realized that in rejecting your kidney, my body was rejecting the only good thing I had done in this entire situation. My body was rejecting an act of genuine sacrifice and genuine love, and there was something profoundly tragic about that. Michelle, I want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for lying to you. I'm sorry for cheating on you. I'm sorry for allowing you to donate your kidney while I was married to someone else. I'm sorry for the damage I've done to your health and your life and your ability to trust people. But more than that, I want you to know that I recognize the magnitude of what you sacrificed. I recognize that you gave me a part of your body. You permanently altered your health to try to save my life. And I threw that sacrifice back in your face by lying to you. When my kidney rejected, I thought about how unfair that was. Not to me, but to you. Because now your sacrifice was literally for nothing. You gave me your kidney, and my body destroyed it. You altered your health for a man who didn't deserve the gift. I've had a lot of time to think in this prison cell. I've had a lot of time to reflect on my choices. And I've come to understand that what I did to you was not just a mistake or a lapse in judgment. What I did to you was evil. I deliberately deceived you about something fundamental. I allowed you to make a life-altering decision based on lies. I took your sacrifice, and I treated it like it was nothing. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't expect you to respond to this letter. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I've done, and I'm sorry. I hope that knowing your kidney rejected gives you some sense of justice. I hope that knowing I'm suffering in here gives you some satisfaction. And I hope that eventually you're able to move forward and find happiness. You deserve happiness, Michelle. You deserve to be with someone who values your sacrifice. You deserve to be with someone who loves you the way you love them. I'm sorry, Marcus. I read that letter 3 times. By the time I finished reading it the 3rd time, I was crying. I had spent so much time angry at Marcus, so much time wanting him to suffer, so much time wanting revenge. And now that he was suffering, now that his kidney had been rejected and he was going back on dialysis, I felt hollow. The satisfaction I thought I would feel at his suffering didn't materialize. Instead, I felt sad. I felt sad for both of us. I felt sad for the relationship that had started with so much promise and had ended in so much pain and deception. About 8 months into my prison sentencing of Marcus, I met someone new. His name was James Patterson. He was a physician at the hospital where I worked. He was in his late 30s, intelligent, kind, and he had been through his own painful divorce a few years earlier. We met in the hospital cafeteria and started chatting about a patient we were both working on. That conversation turned into another conversation. That conversation turned into a cup of coffee. That cup of coffee turned into dinner. I was terrified of dating after Marcus. I was terrified of being hurt again. I was terrified of trusting someone with my heart and having them break it. But James was patient with me. He understood why I was cautious. He understood that I had been through something traumatic. And he never pressured me or made me feel like I had to move faster than I was ready to move. We dated for several months before I told him the full story about Marcus. I didn't tell him immediately because I didn't want him to see me as a victim. I didn't want him to see me as a woman who had made a terrible mistake. But when I finally told him, he responded in a way that touched my heart. Michelle, he said, holding my hand. What you did was an act of profound love. Yes, it didn't work out the way you hoped. Yes, you were betrayed. But the act itself was beautiful. And the fact that you were willing to sacrifice for someone, that tells me everything I need to know about who you are. That tells me you're a person who loves deeply and gives generously. Even if that love and generosity was wasted on someone who didn't deserve it, I asked. The love and generosity were never wasted, James said. You gave them. They happened. They're part of who you are. And I'm grateful to Marcus for being such a fool, because his foolishness led you to me. I fell in love with James slowly, carefully, and with a sense of gratitude that I hadn't expected to feel again. He didn't replace what I'd lost with Marcus. He was his own person, and he brought his own gifts to my life. And when he asked me to marry him a year later, I said yes. I thought my story was finished. I thought the twist, the kidney rejection, was the end of the surprises. But I was wrong. 3 years after Marcus was released from prison, he served 18 months with time off for good behavior. I received a visit from a lawyer I'd never met. His name was David Kowalski, and he represented an organization called Donors for Justice. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and an intense manner. Michelle, he said when we met in my home, I've been following your case. I've read about your legal battle with Marcus Whitmore, and I've come to talk to you about something important. Okay, I said cautiously. What is it? There have been 5 other women, David said. 5 other women who have donated kidneys to Marcus over the past 10 years. I felt my stomach drop. 5 other women. How was that possible? What do you mean? I asked. I mean that Marcus Whitmore has a pattern, David said. He targets women. He romances them. He convinces them he's dying. He gets them to donate kidneys to him, and then he moves on to the next woman. That's impossible, I said. You can't receive multiple kidney transplants. Your body would reject them. Exactly, David said. That's why he moves on. After a kidney is transplanted and starts to fail, he moves on to the next woman. He finds a new woman. He starts a new relationship. He convinces her to donate her kidney. I felt sick. I felt violated all over again. How do you know this? I asked. Because I've tracked him, David said. I've found 5 other women who donated kidneys to Marcus. I've found documentation. I've found patterns. And I've come to ask you if you would be willing to work with me and these other women to file a larger lawsuit against Marcus, not just for fraud, but for operating what appears to be an organ donation scheme. I sat down. I couldn't process what I was hearing. He's been using women, David continued. He's been using their love and compassion and their desire to help someone they care about. He's been extracting organs from them. He's been using those organs, and then he's been moving on to the next victim. Why would he do that? I asked. His kidney already rejected. What was the point? Organs can be sold, David said. They can be transplanted into people who need them. They can be used for research. There's value in organs, even when they eventually fail in the recipient's body. Are you saying Marcus was selling the kidneys? I asked. I'm saying I need to investigate that possibility, David said. But I wanted to start by talking to you. I wanted to see if you would be willing to work with me to build a case against Marcus for operating an organ donation scheme. I agreed to help. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to process the information that I had been one of 5 women. I didn't know how to accept that my kidney donation, which I had thought was a personal act between 2 people who loved each other, might have been part of a larger scheme. I need to pause here and address you directly. We're now at a critical point in this story. Michelle has just learned that her experience with Marcus wasn't unique. She was one of 5 women. 5 women who donated kidneys to a man who was using them, possibly selling them. If this story is affecting you, if you're feeling shocked and betrayed on Michelle's behalf, I want you to support Tinty Tales right now. Like this video. Subscribe to our channel. We tell stories that matter. If you want to directly support us, please send a super thanks. Your support helps us continue bringing these critical stories to light. And please tell me in the comments. What would you do in Michelle's situation? Would you pursue justice even further? Would you try to expose Marcus publicly? Now, let's continue. Over the next 6 months, David Kowalski's team investigated Marcus's organ donation activities. They found documentation showing that Marcus had indeed received multiple kidney transplants. They found bank records showing large deposits into his accounts from medical organizations and research institutions. They found communications between Marcus and people in the organ trafficking underworld. Marcus had been selling the kidneys. He had been targeting women, convincing them to donate their kidneys, and then selling those kidneys to people who needed them, or to research institutions. It was a criminal enterprise. It was organ trafficking, and I had been part of it without knowing it. David Kowalski helped me and the other 4 women file a lawsuit against Marcus for running an organ trafficking operation. He helped us file additional criminal complaints with federal law enforcement. Marcus was charged with federal crimes related to organ trafficking. The maximum penalty was 15 years in federal prison. The trial for Marcus's organ trafficking operation took place 2 years later. It was a larger, more complex trial than the initial fraud trial. There were multiple victims. There was federal evidence. There were international organizations involved in the organ trafficking ring. I testified again. So did the other 4 women. We told our stories. We described how we had been manipulated and deceived. We described how we had found out what Marcus had been doing. Marcus's defense was interesting. His lawyer argued that Marcus wasn't running an organ trafficking operation. He argued that Marcus was simply making money off kidney transplants that had already been performed. He argued that once an organ is transplanted, it's not the donor's property anymore, so Marcus wasn't stealing anything. But the jury didn't buy that argument. The jury saw through the legal technicalities and recognized what Marcus had actually done. He had orchestrated a scheme to extract organs from women through deception and fraud. That was organ trafficking, regardless of what happened to the organs after they were transplanted. Marcus was convicted on multiple federal charges related to organ trafficking. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. 12 years. He would be in his 60s when he got out. After the trial, I felt different. I felt like justice had actually been served. Not just personal justice, but justice for all of us. Justice for all the women who had been deceived. Justice for all the people who might have received organs through Marcus's trafficking operation without knowing how those organs had been obtained. The 5 of us, me, Gabrielle, and the 3 other women, we stayed in touch. We started a support group for organ donors who had been victimized by fraud or trafficking. We began to speak publicly about our experiences. We began to advocate for better protections for organ donors. We shared our stories with lawmakers. We testified before legislative committees. We worked to create new laws that would protect organ donors from fraud and trafficking. Some of those laws passed. Oregon became one of the first states to pass comprehensive legislation protecting organ donors from fraud and trafficking. The legislation required that organ donors have independent legal representation before the donation. It required transparency in organ donation transactions. It created penalties for anyone who attempted to manipulate or deceive organ donors. I was honored to be part of that change. I was honored to turn my pain into something productive. I was honored to use my experience to protect others from going through what I had gone through. I'm now 38 years old. I've been married to James for 2 years. We recently had our first child, a daughter named Emma. I held her in my arms in the hospital, and I thought about how different my life could have been. If I hadn't donated my kidney to Marcus, if I hadn't gone through that betrayal, if I hadn't fought that legal battle, I might not have become the person I am today. I might not have had the courage to pursue justice. I might not have met James. I might not have Emma. Life is strange that way. Sometimes our greatest pain leads to our greatest growth. My kidney function is stable. I have regular checkups with my nephrologist. I live a healthy lifestyle. My doctors say I can expect to live a normal lifespan with 1 kidney, and I'm grateful for that. I still think about that day in the hospital when I first woke up after donating my kidney. I still think about the hope I felt that day. The hope that Marcus and I were building a beautiful future together. And I'm sad that that hope was based on lies. But I'm also grateful. I'm grateful that I've learned what I'm capable of. I'm grateful that I've learned to survive betrayal. I'm grateful that I've learned to forgive, both Marcus and myself. I still work as a surgical nurse. I still help patients navigate their medical crises. I still see people at their most vulnerable, and I use my experience to help them. I tell them my story. I tell them that life doesn't always go the way we plan. I tell them that betrayal is possible even from people we love. But I also tell them that healing is possible. Recovery is possible. Hope is possible. If I could go back and talk to my younger self, the woman who was so eager to donate her kidney to Marcus, what would I tell her? I would tell her that sacrifice is beautiful, but wisdom is also important. I would tell her that love is important, but self-protection is also important. I would tell her that it's okay to trust people, but it's also okay to verify. I would tell her that not everyone deserves the gifts we want to give them. I would tell her that sometimes people we love will hurt us in ways we never imagined. I would tell her that it's not her fault when people betray her trust, but I would also tell her to never stop being the kind of person who is willing to sacrifice for others. I would tell her to never stop being the kind of person who trusts. I would tell her that the world needs more people like her. The difference is that now I know how to be that person while also protecting myself. Now I know how to love deeply while also maintaining healthy boundaries. Now I know how to give generously while also being discerning about who I'm giving to. Marcus taught me all of that, even if he didn't mean to. Looking back on this entire experience, I realized that my journey wasn't just about organ donation or betrayal or legal battles. My journey was about learning who I am. It was about learning what I'm capable of. It was about learning that I'm stronger than I ever knew. I'm stronger than my pain. I'm stronger than my fear. I'm stronger than the betrayal. I'm stronger than the compromised kidney function. I'm stronger than everything that tried to break me. And you know what? You're stronger than whatever you're facing too. You might not feel like it right now. You might feel broken or betrayed or defeated. But inside, you is a strength that you haven't discovered yet. I'm telling you my story because I want you to know that if I can survive organ trafficking, if I can survive betrayal by someone I loved, if I can turn that pain into advocacy and change, then you can survive whatever you're facing too. If you're watching this and you're dealing with betrayal, please reach out for help. There are people who can help you. There are lawyers who specialize in fraud. There are therapists who specialize in trauma. There are support groups for people who've been through similar experiences. You don't have to do this alone. If you're watching this and you're thinking about donating an organ, I want to encourage you to do your due diligence. I want to encourage you to have independent legal representation. I want to encourage you to verify that the person you're donating to is who they say they are, and that they're in a stable relationship with you or that they're a family member you can trust. Organ donation is a beautiful act of love, but it's important to make sure it's truly an act of love and not an act of deception. To those of you who are watching on Tin Tea Tales, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank you for listening to my story. I want to thank you for bearing witness to my journey. I want to thank you for caring about my experience. If you've liked this story, please like and subscribe. If you want to support us directly, please send a super thanks. Your support means everything to us. And please tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Tell me what you think about my story. Tell me if you would have done anything differently. Tell me what lessons you've learned from my experience. If my story has moved you, if it's touched you in some way, please share it. Share it with someone you know. Maybe my story is exactly what someone you know needs to hear right now. I'm Michelle Vasquez. I'm 38 years old. I donated a kidney to a man who betrayed me, but I survived. I healed. I found justice. And I found a beautiful new life on the other side of that pain. With love and respect, thank you for listening to my story.